What's going on, Wolves? Wolfettes, everybody. Hopefully, champions out there. That's it, man. I mean, we have one more game left, but I think, if you're like me, a lot of your weeks are already settled. But I guess the one key player coming, or the two key players coming still are Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. If you do have them in your lineup, keep hopeful. Stephon Diggs can absolutely go off against a Gilmore-less Patriots. It's going to be painful to watch them dumpster us as a Patriots fan, but it's been an exciting year. So, but if your matches are already decided, and actually, you know what? Forget it. We can't say they're decided because everyone thought the Kamara games were decided, and they're far from decided. I mean, I have Kamara in a league, and it's looking like I'm probably going to lose that matchup actually. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been a freaking wild week. But we got some stuff to cover this week. Some things I want to go over. Now that the season is basically almost over, we're truly starting with my favorite part of the season, which is the off season, which technically there is no off season because in Dynasty, if you're playing Dynasty, there really is no off season. You go from starting lineups during the season to research and rankings and rookie prospect profiles and researching all that aspect of the game after the season is finished. And, I've already started on that. You guys have been seeing some of my tweets about rookie 2021 prospects as well as Devy prospect. This is the most exciting time of the year. I mean, if you guys joined the channel this year, obviously joined this year because we only started this year, but if you're new to Dynasty, this is the exciting time. You've kind of played out your first season. And the first season of Dynasty, I always say, is kind of like it's almost kind of like redraft, right? You did your startup draft. It was exciting. You're playing your league. You're trying to get that win in your first year. But the hard work starts here. Like Dynasty doesn't really start feeling like Dynasty until the second, third, fourth years. And that's really when you see your teams really start to take shape. I mean, if I look back to some of my most favorite teams are teams that I drafted like a year to 2 years ago, teams that I've built over the course of 2 to 3 seasons to get to where they are now. And, when you tweet out your rosters on Twitter, you always get the very unoriginal dudes who are like, is that a 4-team league? Do you play an 8-team league? Do you play with kids or whatever? But no, that's just like kind of how Dynasty is played. If you play over a period of time, you make the right moves, you make the right trades, you end up building a dynasty. And that's what we're all about here on this channel, and specifically this segment on Market Watch Mondays. I'm always focused on looking at the future, looking at players that we really like, and kind of tracking it and treating it like an investment. So before we get into anything, though, you guys know what time it is. Hit that motherfucking intro.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So main slate of the games is over. I actually, I had to fade Derrick Henry in a lot of leagues. So this game between the Packers and the Titans went about as well as I could have hoped. They basically got blown out, and Derrick Henry was, despite the Titans trying to establish the run while down 3 possessions, they were unsuccessful, which is not surprising. Derrick Henry was actually doing pretty good, in the second half. He was averaging like 6 to 10. He was almost averaging like a first down every couple of carries, but time was on their side. And then for some reason, once they got down into the red zone and it was time to score a touchdown, Derrick Henry was riding the bench. So not sure how they kind of arrive at those types of decisions. I mean, it's always frustrating. I was having some back and forth with FF Terminator on Twitter. It always seems like, sometimes coaches just outsmart themselves and take their best players off the field when it matters most. But it's not like, they're not the only ones. Vrabel's not the one who does that. I mean, I remember the 4th-and-1 key decision with Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers, and they decided to take Christian McCaffrey out the field and try and run it with a freaking fullback. And, sometimes coaches just do stupid shit and you can't really explain it. You don't know why, but they do it. But maybe there's a reason. There's a reason why they're head coaches of the NFL, and I'm sitting here at home talking to you guys on my laptop. But it's just part of the game. So look, hopefully those of you out there that followed my advice and followed Noah's advice and followed the advice of the BDG brand, we were able to bring home some titles for you. If we were not able to, I apologize. And just stick with us, man. We'll try and get you there next year. You know, I always say like it's skill to get to the playoffs, but once you're in the playoffs, it's really a crapshoot, man. Like a lot of my teams that were on bye, for example, like they went off the week they're on bye, and then the second week in the semifinals, they decided to retire. So that shit happens like every single year. It's just part of the game. There's no way around it. But hopefully you guys took home some titles. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, man, and had fun. That's the most important part is enjoying it and having fun. Some key takeaways. I tweeted this before, but I really do think the 2020 rookie class was one of the best of all time from a skill position perspective. If you look at it, like we're gonna look back on this class, and between the running backs, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, James Robinson, Cam Akers, A.J. Dillon even flashing some today. Like it goes on and on and on in terms of the depth. And that is, to me, that's almost comparable to the 2017 stud running back class, right? Consisting of like Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara, all the studs over Aaron Jones, obviously, like all the studs there. And then we also have the wide receivers, right? We have Justin Jefferson, who I have as a top 3 dynasty wide receiver already. We have CeeDee Lamb, who I also have as a top 8 dynasty wide receiver. T. Higgins is a top 10 dynasty wide receiver. I have 3 rookie wide receivers in my top 10 dynasty rankings, and most people might think that's a little bit aggressive. I don't. Like I said before, I really do feel like early producing rookie wide receivers are the best and safest investments you can make in dynasty outside of rookie first round picks. And then I even have Brandon Ayuk, I think, in like a top 15. So 4 of my top 15, the top 20 wide receivers are rookies, which is wild. The consistency there. CeeDee Lamb went off today to just really like put a cap on an outstanding season. I mean, he lost Dak Prescott, didn't matter. T. Higgins went off today, lost Joe Burrow, didn't matter. Had Ryan Finley there and just balling the fuck out. He was playing extremely well. And I think I had some conversation with someone on Twitter today, and they were like, are you worried that T. Higgins is not a deep threat, not a not a burner? And my answer is no. Like I don't care. Like feel like the way that people approach like player evals and dynasties is a little bit weird because they're always looking for like the same traits, right? And to me, I don't really care what trait you have as long as you win. As long as you win with that trait and you're better at if you're only good at 1 or 2 things, as long as you're the best at those 1 or 2 things, you can win consistently doing those 1 or 2 things. That's good with me. I don't care how you produce. T. Higgins is not a burner. He is not a yak monster. He is not a physical receiver like an A.J. Brown. But what he is very similar when he came out. I said it then too. He was the perfect replacement for someone like an A.J. Green. He's not the fastest guy, but he will beat you downfield with this finesse, and then he will beat you in the air because he is he might be, might call him like a catch and fall guy because he's not really the yak guy, but that doesn't matter because he's a deep ball. He can get deep. He can win deep. He can win contested catches deep, and he will produce deep, and he's great in the red zone. He's a towering monster that will moss people consistently. So he does those 2 things well, just like AJ Green did. And, like I said, Calvin Ridley as well. People faded him this year because he was not a yak monster. Doesn't seem to matter, does it? Because he wins in other ways. So you don't need to be a route god, or you don't need to be a George Kittle, AJ Brown type to be a very productive wide receiver in the NFL. There's multiple ways to win. So, as long as my guys know how to win consistently and they produce on the field, that's all I care about. So that's why T. Higgins is the baller. I think people need to go out and acquire him, and I'll cover him a little bit more later as well. But I really feel like, he is a stud in the making, and I don't think he's being valued as such because he lost Joe Burrow, and, he had a couple quiet weeks. Even in those quiet weeks, though, man, he had some penalties and just like near misses where if he connected, he would have had a couple other monster weeks. So I really, really love T. Higgins. I loved him as a prospect. You guys know that. I had to defend him against the blasphemy of Nick and Noah on the channel constantly. Thankfully, they've actually, flipped the tune. Obviously, you can't deny the talent of what you've seen now. So it's exciting to watch him and watch some of the other wide receivers develop. But yeah, all in all, this has been probably one of the greatest rookie classes for fantasy, period. And I'm not sure we'll see another class like this for quite some time in terms of the depth, the talent, the production, the value at the top. it's just it's incredible. And if you're someone like me that like tanked like the season before, like in 2019, aiming for that 1 year turnaround, going all in on this class, you're probably sitting pretty with a nice young squad. Like I have a squad that's like almost built entirely out of 2020 and some 2019 like young studs. Like I have like Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, T Higgins, and then a bunch of like the running backs too. Like I have like Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Something like that, like something ridiculous like that. And if you are in that position, you probably didn't win this year because it took them a little bit of time to get online. Hopefully you didn't sell low. That would have been a travesty and a huge mistake. Huge mistake. But if you held on and you have that core to build around, your team is really going to be set up well. It's going to be set up nice for a long long time, because a year or 2 years from now, like these guys are all going to be like they're going to make up the entirety of the first and second round of your startup picks. And I kind of already have a lot of these guys there already. Like a lot of my rookies, if you look at my ranks, I have rookies ranked very, very highly, because I feel like it's always better to get. I rank them in a place where I feel like you can land them, and that's important to me because I think that people are usually quick to like react, but for whatever reason, slow to adjust for like when it comes to young guns. And if you look at like a lot of the advice on Twitter, people are always like, "Oh, I need to see more. I need to see a bigger sample size. I need to see one more year. I need to see, I need to see how they do it next season. I need to see how they do it with a different QB." Like, there's all these like qualifiers of like what they need to see before they move someone up. And fact of the matter is, if you're actually waiting for all those qualifiers, it's gonna be too fucking late, man. Because by the time you move, you're going to be paying like peak value. Like, look at how long it took for DK Metcalf to ascend to Dynasty wide receiver 1. 2 years. That's it. Not even 1 year and like a few games. Like 1 year and 5 games in the season. Most people had him as a lot of people had him as a Dynasty wide receiver 1 already. So like you got to move quick. Like it's like it feels risky, right? Because you don't want to move too early and then like have that guy bust. But like the dynasty community is becoming like smarter and smarter. There's more and more information out there. There's more and more guys out there putting out information. Information is free. A lot of this data is readily available. So you can look at hit rates of wide receivers that perform really well in the rookie year and how that transcends year after year. And people know this stuff already. So like if you want to like actually get these guys for a value, like you got to act ahead of the curve. Like I always talk about buying high, right? If buying high doesn't necessarily mean you're not buying on a value, because I'm not looking at the value today. I'm looking at the value a year from now, right? How will these guys be valued? And that's kind of how I think about my ranks. I don't put them automatically there, but I will definitely put them higher than where I think the market has them so that I can make sure I land them. And it's I always go back to the Amazon analogy, right? Like, do you want to be the guy that faded like Amazon after its run up to like whatever it was like 2014 because they had a really good run and then missed out on everything at the end? You don't want to do that. It's okay to buy high on a lot of these guys and invest heavily and pay a premium now, because it's going to look like a value like down the line. That's kind of how I view it. And the two topics I want to cover today is, one, I released my combined 2020 and 2021 rookie ranks on Twitter earlier today. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And the reason why I like to look at it this way is because, rookie draft time is when trading is at its highest point outside of the startup. The startup is when you get the most trades on for sure. But the second heaviest trading time is during the rookie draft for Dynasty, because there's nothing more exciting than the rookie draft when it comes to Dynasty. You're getting fresh blood. You're getting all these potential stud rookies that you've been watching and listening and reading about all the way up to April. And then finally you're on the clock and adrenaline is at an all-time high. Like, that is the most exciting time for most people. So that is usually when trading happens. And I always like to think about it in terms of like, what would I take from like the young class that just came in versus the young incoming class, and how do I rank those guys? So I like to do that. So last year I did it for 2019 and 2020 and where the guy slotted in, and then this year I'm thinking through it and doing it at each position for the 2020 and 2021 class to give you a sense for how I would deal with being on the clock with my rookie picks and what types of players, what types of values I'd be looking at if I'm looking to trade out, right? And the first position I want to look at is quarterback. Because I don't know about you, I play pretty much exclusively in super flex leagues. The only leagues that I play in that aren't super flex are a couple of dynasty leagues, which I joined in my first year of playing dynasty, because that's where I wanted to start. And I don't really like leaving leagues, so I haven't left those leagues, and I'm still in them. But aside from those, I play exclusively Superflex. You guys know in the BDG Discord, like all of our leagues are actually Superflex. That's where you really should go, and it's not because like some bullshit like to make QBs like more valuable, to make it parity with like real life NFL. Nobody gives a shit. I mean, people aren't starting two running backs and like two tight ends and shit in real life NFL. For me, it's just about adding another trading chip, and having Superflex just provides value to quarterbacks and provides you more trading partners, more trading assets. Whenever you get more trading assets, that encourages more trading action. I love that. That's why we play Dynasty, right? It's so you can trade all year round. So that's why I want to cover quarterbacks first. They're super important. And then this year, 2021, in terms of prospects, in terms of pure talent at the prospect level, is going to be one for the ages. I mean, people are already talking about 5 or 6 quarterbacks going in the first rounds, which would be wild, right? And it's possible. I mean, look at the hype that's building for guys like Zach Wilson, who nobody fucking knew about before this year, because he didn't do much before this year. He was pretty bad for the first couple of years, and just went out and had a Joe Burrow type ascension. Didn't have anywhere near as good of a year as Joe Burrow did last year, playing in the SEC, winning the national championship against nation's top competition, just absolutely fucking dominating. But he has been impressive in his own right. So there's names like that'll rise, and there might even be other names that we don't know about yet. I don't think so. For quarterbacks, you usually kind of know by this point the ones that are going to draft capital. But if 5 or 6 quarterbacks do go in the first round of the NFL draft, depending on where they go, you can probably bet that 5 or 6 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 15 of your Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts, because that's how people value quarterbacks, right? And for me, obviously, we already covered the ranks of the quarterbacks themselves, but today I want to think about them relative to what's already in the NFL. So I have it in tiers. My first tier consists of Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, and I have Justin Herbert first. This is not as prospects. This is just like my pure dynasty rankings. If it was as prospects, obviously Trevor Lawrence would be number 1, and I had Joe Burrow and Tua ahead of Justin Herbert. Stupidly, obviously, but I did have that. But now, having seen Justin Herbert go out and just basically break all the rookie records as a rookie quarterback, playing for a suboptimal offense. Suboptimal is a nice word. Playing for a really, really bad offense led by Anthony Lynn, and just being handcuffed the entire season. Didn't even start the full year. Had to start behind Tyrod Taylor. It took someone literally assaulting Tyrod Taylor and stabbing him in the chest through his lungs for Anthony Lynn to be like, all right, let me see what I got in Justin Herbert. That's how bad Anthony Lynn is. Okay, so he's hopefully gone as a head coach, but what he's done as a rookie in terms of the production, just the pure production, but also the efficiency in terms of his yards per attempt, is historic. Like one of the best of all time. So there's no way that I can rank someone that people, even someone like Trevor Lawrence, that people are claiming is the best prospect ever. Best prospect since, name your Hall of Famer. The one I've heard most recently is Peyton Manning, right? Who was like the bona fide, like no miss tier 1 prospect. Like teams even faded Ryan Leaf, the talented arm guy, in order to draft Peyton Manning. So from that perspective, Trevor Lawrence, the GOAT prospect, if you believe what everyone says, even though he is that, and I can buy into that, I cannot rank him ahead of Justin Herbert, because we've already seen what Justin Herbert has done as a rookie. And as good as Trevor Lawrence is, there is a chance he becomes a bust. Everyone loves to talk about the can't miss prospect, and maybe he is a can't miss prospect, but there is a chance that he's a bust. And Justin Herbert, based on what he's already done in his first year, has kind of made that leap already, and he has great weapons. So I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert, but they're still in the same tier. Like, it would be hard for me to give up Justin Herbert. I definitely wouldn't give up Justin Herbert to get Trevor Lawrence, but it'd also be hard for me to give up Trevor Lawrence for Justin Herbert. So that's kind of why that's how I think about tiers. Like, if players in the same tier for me, it'd be really hard for me to give up one player for the other. I probably in most instances, I wouldn't really do it unless it's like a very, very specific instance. That's how I think about tiers. That's how you should think about tiers. I know not everyone thinks about it the same way, but if you set up your tiers properly, you really shouldn't have too much like preference within a tier. So don't make your tiers too broad, don't make your tiers too narrow. But for these purposes here, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence consist of my tier 1 rankings, right? Tier 2, Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. I had Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields kind of in almost in the same tier. But now that the Jets have fucked up the tank and the Jaguars have secured the tank and done it the right way by the here's the funny thing, man. The Gardner Minshew is the best, statistically the best quarterback in franchise history for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he got benched from Mike Glennon. That's how you tank, guys. So Jaguars secured the tank, secured Trevor Lawrence. I think that better landing spot separates them a little bit from me. Because I don't know what's going to happen with Adam Gase still. If Adam Gase leaves, it'll be a little closer. But for now, I've got Joe Burrow, Justin Fields in the second tier. But there really isn't much separating. It's not like I'm saying like you need to give me Joe Burrow plus a first to get Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence. Like I would take that Joe Burrow plus first side any day of the week, right? The tiers here is not really being separated by that much. Like maybe a second, right? Maybe, maybe a second round pick is probably where I'm at, but it's definitely not being separated that much. So Justin Fields, Joe Burrow. I had to drop Joe Burrow down a tier from Justin Herbert. 1, because he did not produce as well. Justin Herbert. 2, he's got that nasty injury. I'm not sure if he'll be back for the beginning of the season. I mean, he basically tore like every single piece of his knee up and he's rehabbing. We don't know how he's going to look next year. So that risk factor kind of brings him a bit lower. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might actually have Justin Fields ahead of Joe Burrow because I have Justin Fields ahead of Joe Burrow as a prospect. And Justin Fields kind of offers that running upside and rushing upside. So I might actually have to flip that. But like I said, they're in the same tier. That's why I have these tiers separated this way. They make up 3 and 4. And the reason why I have that tier separation is for a lot of the factors I said before, right? And I think it's gonna be interesting. But these 4 quarterbacks, all 4 of them are gonna be in my top 10. The first tier are probably gonna be in my top 5. Like Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence are gonna be up there, along with like the Deshaun Watsons, the Patrick Mahomes, and the Kyler Murrays of the world. They'll probably round up my top 5. And it might sound crazy to have like 4 of these guys in your top 10, but if you really think about it, the quarterback position is not as secure as people think, right? Like people love to talk about how safe and how secure the quarterback position is. And I'm going to draft this guy and keep him for 10 years and 12 years, 15 years. Dream on, man. Like it doesn't happen like that all that often. And it's just like rookie running backs. Like it's almost like that version of like the rookie contract running back is moving into the quarterback conversation. Like the safest they are is when they have that rookie contract to kind of prove themselves out. And if they are really elite, they are really good, they're going to get signed for that new contract. But then you got guys like Daniel Jones, right? His job, definitely not safe. Sam Darnold, far from safe. In fact, they should probably draft Justin Fields if they're smart, just to get that new guy. So like people always have like, it sounds like it's not safe, but it really is. Like look at Carson Wentz. The dude freaking has a $60 million dead cap and he lost his fucking job to a second round pick because he's not good. Jared Goff, honestly, on that thin ice, he hurt his thumb today too. But even before that, he just was not playing up to par. Like outside of the elite quarterbacks, like no one's job is really that safe as a quarterback, which is why I don't value quarterbacks the same way that other people do. So yeah, I'll probably have those 4 guys within my top 10. And the next tier of guys, I have Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson. Now, people might think like, hey, like Mike, you had Tua Tagovailoa really high. Like what happened? Why did his value tank? It's not so much his value has tanked here as so much it is like what other guys have done. Like Jalen Hurts balled out and he's really putting that Konami code quarterback into the forefront. Like is he the best passer? No. Is he a better passer than Tua? Hell no. But for a fantasy perspective, he is a playmaker. He's helping his team, putting his team in a position to win, at least better than what Carson Wentz was doing, right? And from a fantasy perspective, he is a Konami quarterback, and he's providing you that rushing production, which Tua Tagovailoa at this point is not. And Philly, I'm expecting them to add weapons next year. I think there's no damn chance in hell that Carson Wentz gets his fucking job back because he stinks. He'll probably go somewhere else, get another chance, maybe revive his career. Who knows? I don't care. But what I do know is Jalen Hurts is looking like he's the future. He has a lot of growing pains. We saw that today. He has a lot of limitations, even against a weak defense like Dallas. But he is a playmaker and a winner, which is something that is constantly underrated by everyone. I don't know why, but I really, really like Jalen Hurts. as a fantasy asset. I loved him as a prospect, even coming in. I mean, I stupidly ranked him ahead of Justin Herbert, which is obviously dumb, but that's how high I was on him at some point. And draft capital basically killed him, and landing spot killed him for me because I thought, Carson Wentz would as a franchise quarterback, but obviously I was totally wrong on that as well. But I have Jalen Hurts ahead of Tua Tagovailoa, and then I have Zach Wilson. I mean, I think based on all the hype that's coming out on Zach Wilson, like he is going to get the draft capital. I think he's going to get top 10, top 15 draft capital. And if he does, he's going to be in this tier for me and really get that next shot. I struggled with the next tier of Trey Lance and Mac Jones. Honestly, I might even combine them as a tier of Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones, because there really isn't that much separating Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones for me. I'm just kind of projecting draft capital, just like based on what I'm reading from like Draft Talk Ahead and media, like Daniel Jeremiah and all these guys and PFF freaking bloating Zach Wilson up like he's the next coming of Joe Burrow. I think just based on all that hype, it feels like he's going to get really significant draft capital. That's kind of why I have him separate. But if draft capital plays out a little bit differently and they're a lot closer, then they're definitely going to fall in one tier. I do like Trey Lance, and I have Zach Wilson and Trey Lance ahead of Mac Jones, who is arguably a better quarterback, definitely more ready to take over a starting job. And I think Ray had a really, really good comp for him in terms of Kirk Cousins. You guys know I freaking love Kirk Cousins. But when it comes to ranking for fantasy, I'm looking for that Konami code, right? And Trey Lance has that. Mac Jones does not. So that's kind of why I have him ranked ahead. And I know Trey Lance, I feel like he's going to get pretty good draft capital as well. Daniel Jeremiah was super high on him even last year before this season. So that's kind of where that tier shakes out of Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa and Zach Wilson. And like I said, it might blend with Trey Lance and Mac Jones. They might, honestly, I'm probably going to combine that tier and just make it a 5-man tier with led by Jalen Hurts. And look, it's gonna be really, really exciting to look at these prospects coming in. Like the future is in great hands. But on the flip side of that, what that means is if you are sitting on a rocky quarterback, you better fucking dump them like ASAP, like second round picks, whatever it is. Teddy Bridgewater of the world, like the Jared Goffs of the world. After seeing what happened to Carson Wentz, like these are the tricky ones, like the Sam Darnolds, the Daniel Jones. Obviously, Tom Brady's old, so you can't really flip him for much, right? But like these types of teams that have like very, very shaky, dodgy quarterback scenarios. Dwayne Haskins, another one. You can't sell him for anything, but like I'm just naming these types of things. Like there's a lot of freaking talent coming in, young talent coming in this year, and that's not even thinking about 2022 yet with Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, like Keaton Slovis. Like there's a lot of young talent coming down the pipeline. So if you're sitting on these quarterbacks that are like barely hanging on to their job, you better be looking to get out like real fucking quick, right? Like all these guys, like even like Derek Carr, I would kind of throw into that group as well, even though he's been pretty good this season. But all those guys that really aren't difference makers and are replaceable, at some point they will be replaced. So you got to really try and stay ahead of the curve here and kind of think about 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps ahead. Like we say, man, it's not the shit ain't checkers, it's chess. You got to think many, many steps ahead. And it's why I love playing Devy. It's why I love doing off-season research on Dynasty. This is my favorite time of the year. The future is looking bright. The last 2 guys I didn't really mention, Kyle Trass and Jordan Love. Kyle Trass had a really good year. I'm not sure he's going to get the draft capital. He might be like a day 2 pick. And those aren't great hits, despite Jalen Hurts proving everyone wrong. But for the most part, like draft capital really does dictate quarterback opportunity. So much like running back. So that's why I have like those guys later. And Jordan Love, like I don't really get the obsession. I only have him here because I know he's a first round pick, right? So, you can't really just drop or ignore quarterbacks with first round draft pedigree. And it's not like he's sitting behind a scrub and not playing. He's sitting behind future Hall of Fame, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, and Aaron Rodgers, who's having a career season. So especially after tonight. And it's not like he's washed. Like we haven't really seen him play. I don't know what he'll look like. Based on his college, I was not a big fan of him. I get it. People love to chase the arm talent and stuff like that. But from like an accuracy perspective, from a production perspective, he just really didn't check any of the boxes for me. Like didn't really play against like, the top teams at all. So it is a little bit weird. He's a film grinder, like sweetheart. And, I respect the hell out of a lot of film grinders out there. The ones that I really, really respect, like aren't that high on him, but I know certain people are. But you have to mention him because he has that first round draft pedigree. We don't know what's going to happen there in Rodgers. We don't know how many years more he's going to play. So you kind of got to just stash Jordan Love in your dynasty rosters. I actually have him in a couple dynasty rosters just because he fell to me in like the third round of Superflex drafts. And at that point, like you can't pass on a quarterback with that much draft pedigree. So, but that kind of rounds out like the top 10 to 11 combined 2020, 2021 rookie quarterback class. I'm going to do these for each position. I don't know if I'll do it for tight ends, but I'm definitely going to do it for running backs and wide receivers. And as I do it, I'll tweet them out. I'll cover them in the episode, go a little bit deep in my thought process. But the reason why I have this is like, if you are on the clock, right, and someone is in love with Trevor Lawrence, and I promise you, between now and draft coverage, there's going to be so much hype. There's going to be so much comps of like Trevor Lawrence. Is he the best prospect ever? Is he the next Peyton Manning? Is he better than Andrew Luck? Is he better than John Elway? Is he better than whatever, like name your Hall of Famer? The hype is going to build so strong that there's going to be people that give up Justin Herbert for him. I'm not going to be one of them. But if I have a pick and I'm picking at 101, you bet your ass I'm going to offer that pick for Justin Herbert plus even to start. Because rookie picks have not even reached, it hasn't even started the climb yet. You know, I always preach go in on rookie picks because the value of them is guaranteed, and it's guaranteed increase and guaranteed improvement from now until later. So I always say that, and we haven't even begun to see the rise yet. Like just like Bitcoin, the bull market is just kicking off and the best is yet to come. So don't go trading off your rookie picks now. Hold. But the reason why I want to do these types of ranks is because if you're sitting there at 101, you're going to have that opportunity to trade for a Justin Herbert. If you're sitting there at the 102, the 103, you're going to have an opportunity to trade Justin Fields for, Joe Burrow plus. You're going to have a chance to trade Trevor Lawrence for Joe Burrow plus a first even, right? You're going to have a chance to trade if you're on the clock with Zach Wilson, right? Let's say you're sitting there at like the 105, 106. You're going to have someone who goes crazy and thinks Zach Wilson is a value and is better than Justin Fields and should have been taken at the 102. And if you run into that scenario, you're going to be able to get a Jalen Hurts plus. That's why I do these ranks, because when I'm sitting on the clock and I know what other young talent there is out there that is already proven in the NFL, I'm always going to pivot and bet on someone that's already produced in the NFL over a prospect. As much as I love these prospects, if someone is also equally young and just in the league and done it just as well, I'm going to bet on that guy more often than not, regardless of how the prospect profile views. So that's why I do these types of ranks. Hopefully they're helpful for you as well, as you're kind of going through and thinking through what to do with all your rookie picks. And, another piece of advice that I've always said is like, after hogging rookie picks, if you go out and spend all your rookie picks and don't trade them for anything, you failed your draft. Because that's not really what I do. I love hogging rookie picks because that is a secured value and value riser. But when I'm on the clock, I tend to balance out. I don't really use all my picks like on any given year. I tend to balance it out with trades. Like, this year I traded a top four Superflex pick for like Alvin Kamara. In some combo deal, right? I got like Joe Mixon. That didn't work out, obviously. But like those types of deals, I'm always looking to do. I'm trading like late first for producing wide receivers, like, guys like Keenan Allen, guys like Robert Woods, guys who can help me produce going into next season as I'm building the teams. It's good to have a balance, right? And, this year in 2020, I did spend more picks than normal because I really, really love the class. The 2021 class, as deep it is at quarterback, as deep it is at wide receiver, it is not that at running back. So if you need running backs, you can look to flip those picks for more proven assets. Guys like Cam Akers, Gibson, James Robinson, et cetera, right? Like all these guys that we've already seen it do in the NFL, who are also still really, really young and provide you that leeway. So that's kind of my approach. That's why I do these ranks. I'm going to do them more and more going forward, and they'll constantly update. People call them like cornerstone rankings sometimes, right? You have, I had Ray on the channel, went through his cornerstone rankings. It's just like the cornerstone rankings are just what you build the foundation of your dynasty teams on, and that's youth, right? Young, productive assets is what you should aim to build your dynasty teams around. Because if all you have is old guys, that means your team's falling off a cliff in 2 years. If all you have is super young guys that aren't proven, then you're not going to be competitive. So the cornerstone rankings of like rookies, maybe sophomores, and like incoming rookie class, that's what you want to like kind of build your teams around. And that's kind of how I think about dynasty. So that was the first piece I wanted to cover. And then the other thing I want to talk about is, I talk about buying high all the time, and I haven't really, sunk into it too deep yet, but I know for sure there are certain guys that I'm already willing to buy high on. And the way I do it typically is by trading down from top tier assets, trading down from guys like Devontae Adams, who literally just came off a monster game, championship week. That's going to be in people's minds. Like, for whatever reason, people overvalue championship weeks. Like, to me, like, every week is the same, right? The player themselves aren't producing great in week 16 because it's your fantasy playoff week. It just happens they produce well. So to me, like, when I go back and review, like, every week is created equal. And it doesn't matter. Like, you shouldn't value someone more because they went off in the championship week. That's what I call the Kenyon Drake corollary, right? Kenyon Drake won me fantasy championship, so emotionally I'm attached to him. But I also really like him as a good player. But that irrational attachment probably led me to really kind of overvalue him because you're coming off that high, or you're coming off that W, and you're coming off the championship title, when in reality it really shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter when they produce for you. If they produce for you the early half of the season, that contributed just as much to you getting the playoffs as it did in the championship week. But someone like Devontae Adams coming off this monster fucking week in this monster season is a great sell candidate, especially if you're a rebuilder. But even if you're not a rebuilder, like, the way you build dynasties is you trade down. Like, I traded DeAndre Hopkins this prior offseason. I unloaded all my DeAndre Hopkins shares, even though he had went out and had another great season. But I unloaded him for guys that I felt like were fast up and comers, guys like Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, and I got like Calvin Ridley plus a first, DK Metcalf plus a first. These are the types of deals I'm gonna be looking to get when I'm unloading someone like a Devontae Adams. Like, people always talk about go buy your players, but like, hey, buy your players, but don't give up anything good. Like, that's freaking that's stupid, because people are smart enough. Like, if you're not giving up anything good, you're not gonna get anything good back. If all you do is go out and sell, like, try and lowball people for Justin Jefferson by giving up like one first, or giving up like freaking like some older vet player plus like a second round pick, you're not gonna get them, right? You have to use really top dollar assets to get top dollar assets. The key is trading down from that top dollar asset, the one that is peaked. Like, a Devontae Adams is absolutely peaked. There's nowhere else for him to go. Most people have him as their dynasty wide receiver one. Most of them have him as a top dynasty pick. He is going to be 28, like heading 29. And, like, regardless of what you believe of the player, the dynasty community and the market will view him way less valuable than what he actually is as a player. And now is the perfect time to sell him. So if you're trying to get peak value, I'm trying to unload guys like a Devontae Adams and trade down for some of these targets that I'm going to talk about, right? And number one on the list is T. Higgins. I mentioned him earlier in the season. And the reason why I think he is a buy candidate is because I think Joe Burrow going out really opened up a window, right? Like, people were getting super hyped on T. Higgins. I was super hyped on T. Higgins. And, like, the buy window closed as soon as he had like that nice stretch of games with Joe Burrow, overtook JJ Green, proved that he was a true alpha dog. But now Joe Burrow got hurt, right? We have a few games of him scoring like 5 to 6 fantasy points, whatever. And people are going to like back off on him, similar to how they backed off on CeeDee Lamb. And he did not continue the ascension like a Justin Jefferson because he did not have a Kirk Cousins level quarterback throwing to him. But Joe Burrow will be back, right? And as he showed today, even without Joe Burrow, he can produce, and he's an absolute baller. Like, I'm willing to buy high on T. Higgins, and buy high now. Like, I'm not saying you can get him for basement dwelling like levels, because people will still recognize he's a good player and he's talented. But this is an asset I'm willing to buy high on. I'm willing to pay more than whatever the current market price demands to secure him now, because I think he's a top 10 dynasty wide receiver, and in a couple of years he might be a top 5. Right? I have him currently in my top 10. And the trades you can make are something like a Devontae Adams for like T. Higgins plus a first, might even get a little bit more, like T. Higgins plus a first plus a second or something like that, right? You can probably get that for a Devontae Adams. And I'm always willing to trade down in the wide receiver position, even for a wide receiver as good and as great as Devontae Adams, who probably has, I haven't calculated yet, but he might come out as the best points per game, PPR points per game wide receiver season of all time. But Michael Thomas also came off an incredible season last year. And, I know he got injured and stuff like that, but he also, even the games he played, he was not doing what he was doing this year. And like, I just, whenever players appeal like that, I think it's an opportunity to sell down. And I would absolutely take Devontae Adams and spin him into a T. Higgins plus like a first round pick in a really deep wide receiver class. I can like fire a couple more shots, right? Maybe I'll get, T. Higgins plus like a middling first round pick, T. Higgins plus like a top 6 pick, right? That could be like T. Higgins and like a Javonte Williams, or T. Higgins plus like a Zach Wilson, whatever it is you need. I think that is a great move to make, especially for a rebuilding roster, someone that is not truly competitive. T. Higgins is going to be someone I'm going after all offseason. I'm going to be trying trading down. I'm going to be giving up first round picks. I'm going to be giving up whatever. But in terms of wide receivers, how to compare him, there's only like one wide receiver that I think I would for sure take ahead of T. Higgins, and that's Jamar Chase, because of the type of prospect that he is. But outside of that, if you're on the clock and you have the opportunity to get T. Higgins, I would absolutely offer up a rookie pick and just land T. Higgins, because he is exactly what I would want any wide receiver to be coming in this class. So that is one buy high that I'm willing to go after right now. Another one is DJ Chark. I think this one's gonna be tricky because now the Jacksonville Jaguars have secured Trevor Lawrence. People are gonna bump up DJ Chark a lot more than I will, because I already bumped them up because I was assuming that they're gonna get Justin Fields, and I thought Justin Fields is an incredible prospect in his own right. So, but it seems like the community, based on what I'm seeing, does not view it that way. So there's probably going to be a very, very big bump in his price. Even still, I think DJ Chark is a decent buy. And similarly, the best way to acquire him, I think, is going to be using your rookie first round pick. So if you're on the clock and someone falls in love with with one of the top guys, like a Devonta Smith, right? If you're on the clock and someone wants Devonta Smith, I will give up that first round pick of Devonta Smith for DJ Chark all day, every day, twice on Sundays. And some people have Devonta Smith as wide receiver one, right? So you can probably even get DJ Chark plus. And if you can get DJ Chark plus, if you're sitting on the clock at like 1.07, 1.08, and Devonta Smith is on the board and you have a Devonta Smith truther in your league, you can get DJ Chark plus a second. DJ Chark, hell, even DJ Chark plus a third, plus a couple thirds, I would definitely take that deal, because I think Trevor Lawrence is absolutely going to elevate that offense. And DJ Chark is already a baller in his own run. He's a bit inconsistent, but so is every other wide receiver. He's been productive in his youth, and he's been productive with subpar quarter play, with the exception of Gardner Minshew the God, obviously. So that's why I'm kind of in on DJ Chark. So DJ Chark, T. Higgins, a couple of wide receivers that I'm willing to buy high on. And then I'm going to give you one more player that I'm going to be going out and searching and acquiring everywhere I can. Maybe two more players. Cam Akers. Cam Akers, the reason why I have him is I think he's still attainable. And it seems like every time he was about to like take off this year, he got injured, right? Like this past week, he got injured. High ankle sprain, is out. But like the games before that, a three game stretch, he was absolutely balling out. Took over that backfield, relegated both Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson to the freaking bench, getting less than like 4 touches each per game, while he was getting like 24 opportunities. So Cam Akers, you guys know, if you've been on the channel, I love Cam Akers. Noah also loves Cam Akers. We've been standing for him for a long, long time, so it's been good to see him break out. But I do feel like he's still very attainable, because people are going to bank on small sample bias and say, well, it was only for 3 weeks. Well, it was only in a game where they led against the Jets. I don't care, man. Like what I've seen from him in those games showed and proved out my thesis of him coming out of college, which is why now I'm willing to double down. So what am I willing to give for Cam Akers? Honestly, I'm going to put Cam Akers in the same tier of running back as most of the running backs coming out of this year. So Travis Etienne and Najee Harris, depending on where they land. But I think Cam Akers is easily as good of prospects as all of them, and Javonte Williams as well, obviously. So if you can get Cam Akers for a middling first, which I believe you can, or even a top 5 first, I think you can definitely get him for a top 5 first. But I don't think you have to pay that yet. But if you can get him for like a middling first, or even like a late first, plus like a piece, maybe like a 1.08, plus like a more fringy type wide receiver, I think you can probably even land Cam Akers. But if not, I'd be willing to pay up to that middling first for Cam Akers, because I think I've seen enough for me to bet on him. There is still obviously risk, right? He's still learning, he's still raw, but the upside is so immense. The other risk is he's not getting targets yet, but I'm expecting him to kind of learn that and pick that up along the way. So if you can land Cam Akers and buy high on him, I think that is absolutely a good bet. So those are 3 guys that I'm really looking to acquire this offseason: DJ Chark and T. Higgins and Cam Akers. And obviously, you can buy guys like Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb, like go and do it. And DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, but like they're so like they've had that stretch now where they're kind of like almost like unattainable for anything reasonable priced. Like I don't think you're gonna get any of them for anything short of like more than 2 firsts, maybe even 3 firsts for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. So I'm out on those prices. Luckily, I've already have so many shares of them in my leagues because I went heavy on this class. But the 3 guys I listed, I still feel like are attainable, and you might have to overpay a bit, but in the long run, it'll be worth it. All right. So T. Higgins, DJ Chark, Cam Akers, 3 young studs you can kind of add to the core of your dynasty teams that will set you up for success in the future. Hopefully, you guys have the ability and the opportunity to go and acquire them. If people are in leagues with me, sometimes they watch the pod, so I probably won't be able to get it now. But my pain is your gain. Take advantage and make sure you capture the upside that these young stud assets have to offer. Okay. So to recap, my rookie QB ranks, just gave them to you, right? So you can take a look at those on Twitter as well. And then the 3 top buy high assets in T. Higgins and Cam Akers and DJ Chark. Make sure you guys are kind of like, exploring now, right? Like, don't wait. Don't wait until the rookie season. Start exploring those types of trades now, so that you can kind of start those conversations. Because like sometimes when you're trying to acquire good assets, at least in my experience, it doesn't happen over like a week, right? It doesn't happen over a day. It's like I'm constantly going after these guys. I'm trying to craft new trades, new avenues. Like I'm talking to them. I'm seeing what they like, what they don't like. Try and start doing that now and gather that information, right? Gather that information so that when it comes time to trading your rookie drafts, you already know what they want. You already know what they like. You already know what they don't like. You know what's going to work, what's not going to work. And it kind of just speeds up that process down the line. Like I think that's the number one mistake people don't make is they don't invest enough time studying their roster, studying their league mates to actually like get that road work and kicked off before the trades immense. Like a lot of the big trades I make take like months, take like weeks and months to negotiate before they actually like land and agree to anything. So start those conversations now and become the instigator, become the trade god in your leagues, man. Become the instigator, become the one that kicks things off, that kicks off the action. Because like, people always complain about league activity being dead or whatever, but you can change that, right? And these are the steps you can take now. Now the championship week is over. You can take those steps now to kind of set yourselves up for the future for success. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoy. That's all I got for you this week. If you liked, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, follow me on Twitter, engage with me. I'm on there all the time. I try and message back and talk to everyone who reaches out to me because I love engaging, and that's just like part of what I do. So, if you got questions, hit me up. If you enjoyed, hopefully you enjoyed. Come back again next week for another episode of Market Watch Mondays. I'll see you then. Make sure you check out our weekly film as well with myself and Noah and sometimes Nick. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good offseason, man. Stick with us. Stick with us. This is the best part. This is why you join Dynasty. This is why I play Dynasty. It's offseason. It's trade season. It's rookie season. It's the best season of the year. Yes, better than Christmas, better than all the holidays. So get with it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.